let's chat about new products in Web3. I mean, I'm sure anybody that hears about Web3 probably has come across, or they can think about crypto projects here, there, all the hype, Bitcoins, coins that are trending. What should I buy? What should I sell?
Meme coins.
Meme coins, that's a popular talking point whenever you hear blockchain, crypto, Web3. But the industry has matured, so we need to start talking about stuff that works, the real stuff driving the industry today. So we've been able to identify, anybody closely following the industry as we do at DeFi Planet knows the top trending ecosystems now. We have stablecoins, we have decentralized physical infrastructure networks, and we've got real world assets. Tokenization those are the biggest conversations in Web3, blockchain, crypto. Today, let's just try to have a conversation around where those sectors, what they've been able to achieve, where they are headed potentially, and how much disruption can actually take place. When we place them side by side with their traditional counterparts. So let's just start with stablecoins. So generally, I think we should start from the angle of comparing stablecoins to traditional crypto, because it has gone beyond lumping stablecoins as part of crypto in quotes. Stablecoins have become a standalone product, a quite unique product. In fact, they are the most famous crypto product in existence today. Generally, do you guys think stablecoins are going to become like the mainstay of crypto in quote, and all these routine project coins like XRP, chain like Link, and meme coins even are going to sort of fade into obscurity over time?
I think if that happens, if stablecoins become the core product type coming from this tech, then I would say to a large extent this tech has failed. So stablecoins are good. They're good because they solve a real problem. There was a problem that was solved by stablecoins. Stablecoins is one of the few early areas of this space that came out of solving a problem. But stablecoins in themselves is not enough to kind of center this big new tech. So I think blockchain is a general purpose tech. It's huge. It's a big ticket new tech like AI. So for something that is that big and that has a big potential to transform many aspects of society, if tokenization of fiat, which is what stablecoins are, if that's all it does, then that's not a lot, because there's not a lot of innovation in that. It's just putting the existing fiat ecosystem on chain. So stablecoins are just basically fiat currencies on chain. It therefore gets the benefit of being on chain. So it's more efficient and effective to use. But I would say in terms of complexity, it's one of the lowest rungs on the
and arguably governments are even able to replicate stablecoins in quotes with CBDCs, central bank digital currency.
Yeah.
So they're not exactly the same, but governments can claim to be able to replicate stables. So yes, like your argument is valid. Farid, do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, people don't really care what these things are. We just care that it works. You find that not everybody using stablecoins really understands. In fact, they have had arguments on LinkedIn, people arguing that stablecoins are not crypto. You can't technically call them crypto. I mean, that comes from a warped understanding of what the very idea of crypto is. I know crypto, it came into existence as a form of like deviant, as humans being deviant to authority. It speaks to the core of who we are as human beings in the first place. We don't want control. We want to be able to do our own things. I know stablecoins has kind of abstracted from that and has become this thing where it's a product of a utility, it's a product of a want that's an existing want. Yes, and so that's what particularly makes it different. I still feel that people don't really care about the technology as much as the utility.
Absolutely.
Most people just want,
does it work?
This thing works. Because it works, I'm going to use it, and then when you find that it's people are not as keen on. So this talk about whether it's innovation, this conversation around innovation, I don't think it's a conversation that people conventionally, I don't want to say care about. Maybe I'll say don't care as much. We just care about the fact that it works. And if it works, I mean, that's good enough. Really, to think about.
Absolutely, it makes sense. But generally speaking, in say 10 years, do you think Bitcoin would be more important than USDT, for instance, in terms of utility? Like, do you think more people are going to use Bitcoin compared to US, fairly speaking?
I mean, if you look at it, Bitcoin has come a long way. I mean, from 2008, I think,
Yeah,
come all the way from
yeah,
2008,
around
and
that.
even as at now, it's still obscure in the minds of certain people. People are still like people are associated with fraud and whatnot. You understand? I don't think stablecoins will spend as long a time as Bitcoin has spent and still be obscure in the minds of people. I feel like if it spends as long as if it spends 20 years, and people are using it, people are going to know what it is. They are going to understand all the utility cases for it. Unlike Bitcoin in that regard.
No, so really, I think what I'm trying to get at is, they have different use cases, but let me say one thing they share. One use case they share is payments. Like, you
Yeah.
can use transfer of value.
Mm.
You can use stablecoins to transfer value. You can use Bitcoin to transfer value. So currently, as it stands today, stablecoins have seen more utility than a lot of actual crypto, the traditional crypto, conventional crypto, like Bitcoin, for instance. And practically speaking, stables are more efficient for transferring value. Or even if they're not more efficient, they are just more widely used. It is what it is. So, just thinking about the sheer scale of that situation. I mean, do you think Bitcoin in itself, with all the added extra stuff Bitcoin can be used to do, which do you think Bitcoin will still retain the relevance it has today compared to like the big stable coins like USDC, USDT? In the grand scheme of things, really.
I think the short answer is yes. So I think stable coins and Bitcoin are very different types of assets, different coins. They do different things. They are very different use cases. Like I said earlier, stable coins, I'm not against stable coins. They allow us to use fiat in a more effective manner. But it's not an interesting thing to like have. It doesn't move the needle a lot. So like I said, if blockchain technology existed just to do this, it will be a failure. It means it's not that big a deal. Bitcoin, on the other, and the reason, so the distinction between the two of them, let me try and do a distinction, is that stable coins is basically programmable electronic fiat. The fact that it's fiat is the big line of distinction, because you still have to touch the fiat system. So stablecoin issuers have to hold actual fiat to back the asset. So they have to touch the banking system. They have to hold deposits in banks. They have to buy bonds that the state has issued, denominated in that fiat currency. So it touches the fiat ecosystem. So that's not a massive change from where the world was prior to this tech, right? So we already had electronically available versions of fiat. Yeah. So you go into your app for your bank, and you have, because within the fiat system, there are two types of money: central bank money and commercial bank money. And the reason we don't care about the distinction is because they $1 of central bank money was the same as, but there are two different types of money, and they're created in different ways. And stable coins is basically just making that a more just making it more usable, I guess. That is all it's doing. But you're still touching the fiat system. You're not creating something new. Bitcoin, I mean, this is a completely different system. Needs no fiat system, no backing assets. Doesn't need fiat in any format, whether it's bonds issued by government or fiat currencies. Bitcoin was the first time ever that somebody could move value, like from one point to another, without touching finance and without any intermediary in the middle. Like that in itself, maybe because a bit of time has passed, we're all getting used to that. That is a genius idea. It's an incredible idea. It's an idea that most people said could not be done. Um, but this is what has led to this whole era. So I guess the point I'm making is that stable coins are a byproduct of crypto. Yeah. So blockchain and crypto is at the center. Stablecoin is a byproduct of it, and it's a good thing to have. But it can't be the only thing to have. In terms of volume, Stablecoins have a lot of volume today, but the volume is not necessarily what that people will understand as real world utility. So when you hear that a particular stable, has got a volume of like, I don't know, $1 trillion, it's it's mainly because a lot of hedge funds and other players and traders within the market exchange stable coins a lot, because they also use it to pack their they make a profit from another crypto, like XRP say, then they will pack it in stables. So it's a lot of the volume comes from what you might call financial engineering. So it's not real world usage. It's not that real people in the real world are buying and selling stuff in stable coins to that extent. They're doing it to some extent, but not to that extent. So, but stable coins bring some ease for using fiat. But Bitcoin means you don't need fiat. That's the big uh, gap between it. And the reason stables were created, actually, I said stables were solving a real problem. You have people playing within the crypto space, within the Bitcoin space, where they might make a profit, but they want to reinvest in the future, but there's a time lag between that investment. The options you had was to sell your asset and collect fiat, and then when you need it again, send fiat back into the chain. Stablecoins solve that problem. You can leave it on chain without bringing it out, because bringing it out has a lot of taxation, but the level of friction as well that comes. It's not like the system is built for this. Like off ramping and on ramping is still today, 2026, a big deal, a big issue, very expensive, very clunky. So stablecoins allow you to just kind of keep it on chain. And then people started playing in the DeFi space. So you know, these DeFi platforms where you could mimic banking, lending, borrowing, etc. And so that stablecoins really help. There's no way to plug the original fiat into that, and sometimes you just wanted a less volatile currency. So BTC is quite volatile, right? It goes up, goes down. So stablecoins provided that by anchoring the value against fiat. So it serves a useful purpose, but it's just something on the edge. It's just on the side. So it can never be the main kind of
Yeah,
purpose.
another thing is, I think it also abstracts complexity away from blockchains, from typical blockchains in themselves.
In what sense?
In the sense that, um, if you think about it, the stablecoins make it easy. They are, it's easier to understand. It's easier to replicate. So it's not this thing whereby you have this obscure thing that nobody really knows what it does. So the fact that it abstracts complexity away from from blockchains on their own generally kind of made the usage wider, made it easier to use, and made it more mainstream in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I get the point you're
Yeah,
trying to make. Like, basically, people, an average Joe would easily understand what
exactly.
USDT
Yeah,
does and what
does.
it can be used for
Yeah,
and how to use it, compared to them understanding what
yeah.
XRP can be used to do.
I get that, and I know that's been an issue in the early days of this tech, right? Um, Complexity, or some of the concepts, even some of the concepts are mind bending, right? So like people don't really understand it. But success for me, for this tech, will be when people don't care about the tech. So I think you mentioned something earlier about the utility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason it's complex, it's also the reason it's a genius idea. Like the kind of solutions that blockchain brings, it's quite incredible, and it's going to impact. I mean, way beyond. I mean, we talk about stablecoin, which is basically a financial asset, but way beyond the financial sector. Blockchain tech, is going places. It's going to change a lot of things. So I think it will. We need to get to a point where people don't care about what the underlying tech is, but blockchain is the underlying tech. Yeah, people don't really need to understand how something works. They have apps today that work in ways they don't understand. Look at AI. I mean, users of Gen AI don't necessarily really understand how it works in the background, but they don't need to. A calculator, I don't understand the way it works. I don't understand how a calculator works, but I know it works, and I don't care about the underlying tech. And that's when you know this is working, this is good, people like it. So I think blockchain is going to get to that point where it's in the background of everything. There are even things that I've seen people. I've spoken to some founders in the past where blockchain is the underlying tech, but on the website it doesn't say it, because blockchain. But the day it was more because blockchain a few years ago had a bad rep. They were trying to hide it. But actually, in future, nobody will need to explain that this one is blockchain versus another type of thing. It's just the utility. What can I do? So you basically need products and solutions that touch upon real world, assets, real world use cases where it solves problem for people, does something. Either you do something cheaper or faster, or you create new things that people can do with it. Those are the ways in which you can grab people and they come into. And I think that's what can happen. Stablecoins are not an interesting concept. They're a useful concept and they play a good part, but they're not interesting enough. So therefore, that's why I say they're on the periphery. And stablecoin is actually fast morphing into the traditional finance. Like people will be moving money now, they wouldn't know that it's stablecoin. So the banks will provide the front layer. It will be denominated in fiat, and you wouldn't know that it's stablecoin that's moving the money in the background. That they've gone through several steps where they transferred your fiat into stablecoin, sent it abroad, and transferred it into another currency abroad. That's what's going to happen in the future. So stablecoins are being embedded now into the banking system. And if you look at the various laws that are coming up, if you look at the Genius Act, Genius is quite an interesting acronym. It sounds like Donald Trump type of acronym. But the Genius Act in the US basically puts stablecoins in the banking space, right? So basically, it's being framed as something that the authorities that are in charge of stablecoin rules are banking authorities. It's not the SEC, it's not the CFTC. So therefore, they place in the banking space. Stablecoins, many banks are also moving into the space to issue stablecoins. As far back as 2-3 years ago, Standard Chartered issued stablecoins. I think many banks will issue stablecoins. They will do other things as well that are similar. They will use to move value across within the ecosystem. But I think there are many more interesting things that you mentioned, like deepening.
I mean, just even like leading off or launching off from the conversation around like these utilities, popular utilities, tokenization is becoming very big. Right?
This is going to be very big.
And definitely, the type of hype, maybe not the same level of volume, but new applications of blockchain crypto come with a lot of noise. Like, there's gonna be a lot of talk, potential, like what it can do, how far it can go. So yeah, tokenization has been one of those big talking points, and it has become very popular because it is very democratic in nature. Like the very idea of it was wealth creation for ordinary people, ownership, stuff you can't do as an individual entity, you can do it as a fractional owner and, reap the same benefits and, without all the red tape, and nobody even nobody needs to know who you are or what you look like. Like all of those things fade away, right? Or like, so that's what tokenization does. But, is currently like we're just practically looking at the uptake, even in developed economies, much less developing economies or developing countries. It doesn't feel like the uptake has been as fast as everyone would have expected in terms of adoption. And just floating opinions around what do we think regulations, like, do we think the problems, what's really slow in adoption is problems with the technology itself, maybe the products, or regulation, and it could be either of both, and it could be either, it could be both, and it could be something else entirely. But let's have a chat
So
about
I feel
it.
like,
What do you think?
I feel like whatever regulatory bodies are going to go into things like tokenization are going to need to figure out things like KYC, going to need to figure out things like securities, laws, cross-border controls, and stuff like that. And these are not easy talking points. These are not easy conversations to have. These are not things that you can just meander your way through. You have to sit down in the room and talk about how you intend to go about stuff like this. So I think that is one of the reasons why tokenization is slow. I think it could have been a lot faster because the technology is still based on the blockchain and whatnot. So I mean, you now have a situation where you have on one end stablecoin is really fast and all that, and then you have tokenization that is not as fast, even though both of them still what I say, are still on the same blockchain as the base. And so I feel like a lot of it will have to do with regulation, really, because once we can figure out regulation, it's easy to sell this idea to people. It's easy to tell them that, okay, this is what this can do. They now understand that this is a utility thing. Now you can, this is how you can communicate how useful this thing will be to them. But once, if you cannot communicate the utility of a product to a consumer, they are not going to use it. It's not rocket science. Nobody's going to use it. You understand? And so I feel like regulation is a heavy part, has a heavy part to play. Once we can get that right, I feel like the adoption will speed up. As it should be.
So I fully agree with that. I think reg is where the issues are, and there are also issues of law as well. It's not the tech. The tech is done. The tech is there. It's fully available. There are no gaps in terms of the tech to allow this to happen. I think it's just difficult to do. There are so many steps. It's clunky, and the difficulties relate to the underlying assets themselves. Say for example, you wanted to do tokenization of a building or something. It's the underlying rules around ownership of such an asset that is a part of the issue. And obviously, if an entity wants to do this, they will have to comply with various financial services laws. So, because it basically is the same thing as issuing shares. Basically have a collection of people who put their money together and own an asset that a small group of people in the center will manage. So everybody's profit is depending on the activity of those guys. So you can't really do that. The one thing that the Clarity Act, I know we keep going back to US law, is doing at the moment. I know it's still in draft, right? But one of the things it's doing is trying to just make it clearer when things fall with the SEC and when they fall with the CFTC. But it's done something quite good as well, which is if you were to say buy real estate and you cut it into different pieces and you issue tokens for people to own, on day one, that sounds like securities, right? You issue something that's akin, behaving like shares. So it's under the SEC for maybe the initial IPOs or. But over time, it's possible for that thing to basically depend more on the code than a central group of people, the initial people that are created it. So it can get to a point where it no longer depends on a small group of core people. It's the code itself running it, and if that happens, then it stops falling under the SEC. So something that begins life being regulated by the SEC, the Clarity Act is suggesting can move across and become a commodity and then fall under the CFTC. Obviously, this is a US quirk, right? Other people don't have this distinction. If you look at the UK, the way you have the CFTC and the SEC, well, both of them together is the FCA. So they don't have the problem of whether you're a commodity or a security. But I think it's not the tech. There's a lot of clunky issues. There are legal issues as well. So to give an example, right? Issuing a token is the easy part. Saying I have this real world asset and I've divided it into 1 million. I'm issuing 1 million units of it. That's the easy bit. You now need to attach the legal rights in the underlying asset to those tokens. Right? Because people need to actually own that little piece. So if my token gives me 1%, say, of the underlying asset, I need to own 1% of the underlying asset.
It says
but owning the token doesn't give me that. So you need some legal tools in the background. So for example, maybe you have a special purpose vehicle that I as a token holder have a direct share in. And that special purpose vehicle buys the underlying asset and owns it, is the legal owner. So therefore, by owning 1% of that special purpose vehicle, I own 1% of the underlying asset that it transfers. So you need a legal way to tie it together because the token itself is not enough. And in that sense, it's much more difficult than a stablecoin.
Okay, so it was good. It was really good. You mentioned, like, you sort of gave this analogy of tokenization practically being fractional ownership, owning same as owning shares. So one of the biggest threats to or disrupt. Let me not say threats. Like, it's just going to disrupt this industry as we know. It's like equity, private equity. It was good. You made the analogy, like drew the parallels between tokenization and just owning shares. Like that makes it easy for everybody to understand what fractional ownership is about and all this, like all the lingo around these things. They're actually like easy to understand and they serve the same purpose more or less. They're just more democratic. It reduces barriers, like it gives regular people more access. Now, there's one part of investments that not everybody has access to: private credit, like the BlackRocks of the world, the Goldman Sachs of the world, the big hedge funds. Um, do you think RWAs can grow, and all sorts of everything on that tokenization really can all about tokenization can grow to a point where it directly disrupts the private credit industry as we know today, right? Like same as what ETFs, not even crypto ETFs, like generally
Just
ETFs
not normal
do
ETFs.
to equity investment.
I mean, I think yes. I think the short answer is RWAs can and probably will become will be to private credit what ETFs have been to shares. So back in the days, owning shares was very hard. It was actually a very difficult thing. You have to go to a broker. They physically then go to somebody else.
It is still not very simple today.
Yeah, but at least it's a lot easier now. You have many apps you
Yeah,
can go to now and buy them.
True.
But ETFs was, and then you also have situations where the entry point is so high. The value of each individual share is so much that it was difficult to buy, even just one share.
Yeah, true.
Because there are companies where one share is like $500 for one single share. So it's quite. But and then maybe you want to buy different shares as well, right?
Yeah.
So it becomes a clunky situation. You just have to go to a physical broker, talk to them in the office, and they issue it. I know all of that kind of ended. There's many apps you can buy it to. But ETFs, did a great thing by just making shares more accessible to a wider range of people, and also people could, you could band them together as well and buy different products together, etc. So I think private credit is equally an obscure area today. It's a very opaque, obscure, because only big players can play in this space. Because basically, private credit means lending provided by non-banks. So you can have a corporate providing loans and etc. It's been growing. It's ballooned in the last 10 years or so. So much so that supervisory bodies, central banks, have started to sound the alarm bell to say, could there be a crisis in this area in future? But it's such a closed shop. It's only for the people in the know that can engage in it, and the entry points are very high.
Very high. Yes.
So I think what we are starting to see is that tokenization, using blockchain tech, is going to really open this up to everyone and make it as easy to engage in as we can all engage in shares now. So I think that will happen. We're starting to see. So BlackRock and KKR have already started issuing tools for people to be able to engage in this. So yes, I think this works.
Okay, brilliant.